The purpose of this very ambitious post is to encapsulate the undeviating relationship among religion, yoga, and spirituality, and to dare attempt to do this in a nutshell. So I guess I better hurry up and get started. If, or if ever, one stops long enough to investigate the most essential meaning of the terms religion and yoga, they will realize that fundamentally, they actually mean the same thing. The many religions with which we are familiar and the various forms of yoga with which most are much less familiar are all different ways and means to achieve the same goal. They are processes for elevating and refining our desires, for achieving gratifying and pleasing harmony among our body, mind, and spirit, for learning to love and serve others as our neighbors, for purifying our intellect, and for better positioning us for the life we will go to after this one. Over the centuries, the term religion has been variously defined and described. The etymology or word origin of religion has never been singularly settled. But for our purposes, there is no need to split hairs, since most lean to the idea that the word religion comes from the Latin word ligare, which means to bind, and in this case, with the prefix added, religare, it indicates a process for rebinding or binding back to one's source, one's creator, or to that one which we call God. Now, when it comes to yoga, the definition is less complicated, and yet its more primary meaning is not as easily understood. And in the West especially, it has generally come to mean something that is far from its more essential meaning. Yoga is a Sanskrit word that has initial use, or was initially used, in the ancient pre-religious scriptures of the Vedas to indicate union with God. Yoga's root word is yuj, which literally means to join or integrate. And it suggests that through the various margas or pathways of yoga, one can actually integrate into or unite with their creator or with God. Thus, the correspondence between the terms religion and yoga is clear. That is, if religion means to rebind or bind back, and yoga means to reunite or integrate, we can plainly see that they are neither different in their essential idea or in their goal and intention. For in both cases, the reference is to our relationship with the one original, to that which produced you and me. Now, before I move on to spirituality, I wish to offer some brief affirming commentary and expand just a bit on the common denominators among the various religions. Rabia Basri, the first woman to be designated a saint in the Sufi tradition of the Muslim faith, once said, "Since no one really knows anything about God, those who think they do are just troublemakers. And so please bear with me while I make a little trouble." God is truth, and truth is one, not two. And thus, when we examine the world's great religions in earnest, with open heart and unlocked mind, something that is not easy for most because of their cultural conditioning, we discover that all religions flourish with the same idea of God. And while the processes and rituals are widely diverse, the goal of each and every one of them is the same. Each was established to encourage the integration of peace, love, good conduct, sacrifice, service, and nonviolence into our lives and be put into daily and routine practice. Each was designed to help humankind realize the divinity that is inherent within them and realize the indelible bond between every individual and the one indivisible reality. Wherever truth, peace, and love are highlighted and emphasized, in whatever language or religion, by whichever teacher or preceptor, through whichever cultural or perceptual lens, there we can find religion. True religion need not be associated with any particular church or institution. In fact, religion existed well before formalized religions ever came into existence. In all cases, the energizing power was and remains love, faith, and wonder. Love for divinity and love for others. Faith in possibilities, and wonder about the ultimate reason and purpose for our existence. In relation to each other, the various religions are best understood as parallel, analogous, or adjacent. Therefore, one should talk less about what is best or distinguishing about their own religion and practice the principles. We might read or listen to this scripture or that one, and maybe several times. We may learn to recite this or that chapter and verse, but what good is it if we don't weave it into our characters and engage in practice? Who can merely read about a banana and get the nutrients that our bodies require? To get the benefit, we have to bite into it, chew it up, and then swallow and digest it so that it can be integrated into our systems. Hindus, Jews, Buddhists, Christians, Muslims, Sikhs, and those of other faith traditions refer to God by different names, and some by multiple names. I could easily list them, but why bother? Because the use of different names could never change the commonality of our reference, especially when it is impossible to comprehend God in the first place. Yes, whatever name we choose can be very important. And, as truth be told, repeating one's own chosen name of God with concentration, reverence, and deference can be especially useful in developing a personal, one-in-one relationship with God. Now let's remember that while Jesus was the preceptor and hands-down inspiration, he was a Palestinian Jew and did not originate or institute the Catholic or Christian religion. Nor did Krishna, Buddha, Muhammad, Guru Nanak, or any of the other spiritual preceptors start a religion. Each brought the universal messages of love and unity and tailored it in words and ways that were appropriate for their mission. And in every case, it was those who came later who organized, authorized, and sometimes changed the tenets of the religions we know today. Quite simply, a Hindu should be a good Hindu. A Jew should be a good Jew. A Buddhist should be a good Buddhist. A Christian should be a good Christian. A Muslim should be a good Muslim, and a Sikh should be a good Sikh. For sincere and earnest focus on the practice of one's own faith can set them free and personally validate the harmony among all of them. Yes, the philosophies and concepts and the rituals and the norms clearly differ. But from time immemorial, the goal has always been one and the same. So even though people may choose to swim along different rivers, they will all lead to the undivided ocean. And once they arrive at the delta, the names and differences will converge in truth and love and will no longer matter. So best not to make judgments or speak of higher and lower, or try to confine and divide the infinite indivisible into compartments and think or say that mine is better. That well may be the starter, but such an exclusive and non-inclusive point of view will never take us across the finish line. For just as the same electricity illuminates all varieties of lights, so it is that love and its application through the common sense of the golden rule serves as the universal undercurrent for each and every religious traditions. Lands are many, but earth is one. Stars are many, but stardust is one. Lamps are many, but light is one. Oceans are many, but water is one. Jewels are many, but gold is one. Beings are many, but breath is one. And religions are many, but God is one. Now, before I proceed, I have to add that most who profess to follow a religion cannot honestly be said to really do so. I used to ask my students sometimes, can someone who professes to be a follower of Christ really be a Christian if they are misogynists, if they harbor prejudice towards others, or go against the teachings of that faith, which include loving, serving, accepting, forgiving, and doing no harm? What and in which universe could there ever be a Hindu, Jewish, or Christian nationalist? It is an oxymoron, a pure and simple contradiction, a sure sign of what Jesus clearly and fervently referred to as a hypocrite. Well, okay, enough on the essential unity of faiths. Now, let us move on to yoga. As mentioned earlier, yoga means to integrate or unite with the Creator. So while many in the West equate yoga with stretches, postures, and exercises, these are merely one small and wholly incomplete aspect of only one form of yoga, which is referred to as hatha yoga. Like religions, there are many other forms of yoga, which I won't go into. But I will briefly define the more commonly known or principal forms of yoga, which are Karma yoga, Bhakti yoga, Jnana yoga, and Raja yoga, which is also referred to as Ashtanga, or eight-limbed yoga, because of its 8 progressive parts or aspects. Karma literally means action. And so the practice of karma yoga is associated with actions that seek and serve the well-being of others. And yet, the epitome of this practice is only achieved when the service, whatever it is, large or small, internal or external, becomes completely selfless and is not ego-driven or oriented to one's own praise, recognition, or benefit. Authentic karma yoga recognizes humankind's innate interconnectedness and is predicated on the wisdom that the Spirit of God, which resides in my heart, is neither different nor distinct from the Spirit that resides in the heart of all. All are facets of the one non-dual divinity. Therefore, selfless service to one is also service to oneself and to all. If we stop for a moment and consider the potential that is associated with the physics of energy as being equal to mass times the square of the speed of light, and the ways in which energy is always manifesting and changing, taking different forms, and being everywhere, it helps us to begin to understand the deep-rooted principles that underlie karma yoga. Now, bhakti yoga is the union-seeking practice of consistent one-pointed love and devotion to the teachings of one's preceptor or to the preceptor itself, which at the highest spiritual levels are indistinct. Good examples, which are by no means exclusive, would of course be devotion to Lord Krishna, to Lord Buddha, or to Lord Jesus Christ, in the form of dedicated and determined practice of the teachings of love they came to give us. Jnana means wisdom. So Jnana Yoga can be briefly, though insufficiently, described as the relentless effort to achieve, embrace, and embody the all-encompassing universal wisdom of absolute truth, of pure unconditional love. Jnana Yoga is said to be the end or culmination of all yogas, since it is the flower and the fruit of both karma and bhakti yoga. Its achievement can actually provide the direct experience of the bliss of God within our own soul. Now, let me back up a bit to remind us that there are volumes upon volumes of teachings and nuances on each one of these. And so I can't even begin to give the proper props or even cover the J in giving justice to what these forms of yoga truly mean. Nor is this the purpose of this post. But suffice it to say that none of these can even be partially achieved without some consideration and practice of the others. For ultimately, and just like the world's religions, these strands of yoga are inseparable. That's why Ashtanga, or eight-limbed yoga, is also referred to as Raja Yoga. Raja means king. And so the practice of this form of yoga takes the entire kingdom of yoga into account and seeks to combine them all into one integrated practice, which includes the three we have just discussed: karma yoga, or selfless action; bhakti yoga, or the practice of one-pointed devotion and love; and jnana yoga, or the pursuit of spiritual wisdom. I should add that this also includes other lesser-known yoga practices. So for me, it is more about emphasis. And in my own case, I have tried to place more emphasis on the bhakti and jnana aspects of Raja Yoga. again realizing that it is impossible to practice any form of yoga in earnest without practicing the others. For example, whenever we are serving others and engaged in karma yoga, we should serve with love, bhakti, and wisdom or understanding, all connected. Now, religion, yoga, and spirituality must all engage the head to some extent, but they are much more essentially about the heart. In fact, the mind that is in that head or around that head, once it gets transformed and refined, will naturally lead us to our heart. So let us seek the meaning, the understanding, and not allow a string of syllables and sounds and different ways of pursuit to get in our way and distract us. Let us cultivate a mind and a heart that is open to service, devotion, and wisdom in whatever refining forms they present themselves. I've spent a large part of my life reading, studying, and quietly reflecting on the common denominators among the world's religions and yoga practices, and trying to put some of what I've learned into some kind of unifying practice. And yet, the more I study and practice, the more I realize how unfathomable all of this truly is. For that which is sought through the knowledge and practice of religion and yoga cannot be known through the mind alone. The mind, by design, has limitations. Like science, it can only take you so far. True spiritual awareness is beyond the kingdom of doing, beyond becoming, and is only achieved through direct experience, beyond all limitations of time and space, and within the kingdom of being. So after using all these words about religion and yoga that I've tried to place in a nutshell, we can now address the question, what is spirituality? But to be honest, and in reference to what has just been said, I can't answer that question. Because spirituality is experience. It is the inexpressible kernel or essence of religion and yoga itself, and impossible to express in mere words. But if I might, which I will, spirituality is our unmodified and limitless reality. It is the unified self-awareness we achieve within our own souls when we rise above the forms, norms, and confines of any named and denoted process, and resonate both figuratively and literally to our own true identity. It is the fruit and the flower of all religious and yogic efforts. Spirituality is experience. Sincere and dedicated practice of one's chosen religion or yoga practice, without comparing, without contrasting, or without judging others, along with patience, persistence, and purity of intentions, is all we need. But, truth be told, spirituality is what is, and does not really require religion or yoga, both of which have their own conditions and parameters. Effort, understanding, sacrifice, and wholehearted surrender in love are all we need. Thanks yet again for watching and listening to this sincere and highly insufficient attempt. Peace out for now. See you next time.